Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out this morning. Thank you for having a curiosity about your well-being and maybe being able to take charge of your life and your health. Because it does make a difference in your life when you decide to take charge of your life and your health. What am I? Who am I? What do I do? A lot of people I look after find it hard to describe what I do. My base training is as a chiropractor. Over the years I've developed a level of what we call spiritual chiropractic, wellness chiropractic. I was talking about well-being and wellness as early as 1982, and everyone looked at me like I was crazy. I'd never heard of the word. What's wellness? What's well-being? I said, some wonderful feelings on the inside out. And I was talking to people about taking charge of their well-being and wellness. For almost, just over 40 years I've been talking about it, and I've been in practice here in Camden for coming up to 40 years. So what I do is I'm a wellness spiritual chiropractor who works with the body energy, who works with communication between the brain and the body. I work with the embedded patterns of the DNA and the in utero uploading. I work with the body energy, which is a bit like our Wi-Fi area or our cloud area. So I work with all of those in a very holistic way. So when I look at a patient or one of the people who come to see me, I look at all of them. I look at them from inside out. It's not just about a symptom, and I'm going to explain why. We all want, ultimately, to be happy, to be healthy, and have a great life. True? How many are actually living happily, healthily, and having a great life? Well, 90% of the population out there is running a little bit of an Insta screen or an Insta filter with a nice smile, but on the inside, things are chaotic. Things aren't working well. How do we know that? Because it's the way people are thinking, the way people are feeling. But guess what most people do? They suppress the stuff that's not so good. They push it down, and that's not good in the long term. It's like suppressing. As I explain to people, it's a bit like, when you're a teenager, and I'm sure many people have done it, the old thing they've seen somewhere is put a cup of Mentos in a bottle of Coke and then put the lid on and wait till the plastic's about to burst. So that's what happens when you suppress stuff, emotional energy, stuff you don't know about. And my job is to take that lid off and let a little bit of the fizz out instead of it just all spraying everywhere. It's important to let stuff out. Now the funny thing about it is, talking doesn't do it. Now I've got great friends who are psychologists. I love them to death. And there are so many great avenues and great benefits of a good psychologist. Because sometimes we just need to let a bit of fizz out verbally. Is that true? Yeah. Sometimes we just need to have someone to talk. Now, women are much better at that than us blokes. What do, us blokes? We hold it in, right? Because when we were growing up, especially guys of my youthful age and a couple of the guys in the audience, we were told, all sorts of things, nasty little things if we showed any emotion, let alone show any tears. And we wonder why prostate cancer, prostate problems are going off the Richter scale. The prostate is where we, as men, hold our deepest vulnerability. Women hold it in their uterus. That's why when Charmaine's explaining things about hormonal support, it's really important that you get that support. But what I do is I go in and I'm get into the settings, change the programs, we need to delete a couple of files that may be impacting that vulnerability, that may be impacting that suppressed emotion. We don't want to suppress emotions. So if we want to be happy, healthy, and have a good life, there's a couple of things we need to do. Well, there's a couple of things we need not to do. because we'll end up with chronic illness if that suppression stays there. Whether it be mental suppression, feeling like we're not good enough. Do you know what? Unfortunately, the balance has gone a little bit out of kilter, and you know, it's like men are getting a big bashing. Look, I know there's some not so good men out there, I know that. But there are a lot of good men. And there are a lot of good men who want to be good men. So don't lose hope. You know, and as a man, sometimes our roles get a little confused. How do we support our partner? You know, other than providing. How do we emotionally support our partner? Other than going, are you alright? You sure? Oh, it's probably hormones. You better go and see Charmaine. She'll help. I don't know what to say. Do you know what to say? No, I don't think so. So it's all about getting stuff, getting that fizz out, because otherwise our health is going to suffer. Not only our physical health, our mental health. Is there a scourge of mental health illness at the moment? Absolutely. People don't know who the hell they are. People are confused. People don't know what their place. A lot of people don't know what to say in certain situations. Now, trust me, I've been at fault many times, and my brain sometimes thinks things, and I'm trying to grab them and put them back, because sometimes they've slipped out of my mouth. My wife looks at me going, did you mean to say that? Or should have you just kept it in your head? So we don't want to hold stuff in if we can, but we also got to find our path. We're going to find, what is that path? Where is our role in society? Where is our role in relationship? Where is our role in this world? Where is our role within ourselves? The most important part is our role within ourselves. Because if we don't have a level of self-love, we have nothing. Nothing. There was a time, little Philip, who exists in me, he was a scared little boy. He didn't know whether he was going to fit in, he didn't know whether he was going to belong, he didn't know whether he was loved. You know, he had ideas, but every time he had an idea, he was told he was stupid. Or a silly little boy. So little Philip and big Philip's like, So if big Philip's getting a little anxious, a little nervous, I've got to talk to little Philip. I've got to give that little Philip, hey buddy, it's going to be okay. I love you, come on, we're together, forget them. So sometimes I actually have a verbal conversation, as mad as I am, but it's really important. Because it's that little person in you that is the one that's hurting. It's the little person in you who is where all of the turmoil and chaos is bubbling away that will impact the rest of your body. Interesting. Now, two major causes for loss of well-being. Not knowing. What do I mean by not knowing? I mean by not knowing you don't know. How many of you 10 years ago understood what you were thinking had an impact on your health? A couple, not many. Your thoughts are critical to your health. How many people understood your feelings? What you are feeling is your body screaming out for some help, let alone where we feel it in our body. So when little Philip was a little frustrated, big Philip would feel it just in here, in around my liver. Now our liver holds anger and frustration, but also if Philip didn't think he was doing good enough where his mum and dad might have said, I love you and I'm proud of you, he'd feel guilty. And guess what? I feel it in that same area. Our body, where we feel sadness in our lungs, we feel vulnerability down in our pelvic region. And what lives in your pelvic region? In my case, my prostate, reproductive organs, in many of the females' cases, The uterus, ovaries, reproductive organs. So it makes us not feel well enough. And there's behaviours that then come from it. So we need to start to understand ourselves, how we think, how we feel, and how that impacts our actions day to day, moment to moment, and then that cycle back to our thoughts. You ever done something and go, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I knew that was going to stuff up. I knew, oh my God, I knew he was a bad boy and he's going to cause me hassles. Or unconsciously, I didn't know I was marrying my mother. And I still don't get love. Thankfully, I married someone other than my mother. My mother was good, and I'm going to talk about generational healing and trauma at my workshop at 12. But I then understood how my mother ultimately had her love language. Took me till I was 48. I'm only 49 now, really. Till I was 48. And I went, oh, Mum really did love me. I didn't understand. You've got to understand the generations and what they went through. I'll explain more later. And the second one is probably the hardest for most people to digest. Neglect. If you know, ready for this? If you know and you don't do, you are creating a neglect. You know what? Oh, I love white bread, but just it impacts my intolerance and my cheese, my bowels. But we have it anyway. That is a form of neglect. If we know a relationship we're going into, I'm just not going to work out. Guess who you've neglected? Yourself. Maybe you need to learn some lessons. Maybe you need to go back to understanding yourself a little bit more. Neglect is the biggest cause of chronic illness. I was in Coles the other day, and I was behind a couple. And they went to that little counter, where people buy their cigarettes and vapes. Don't get me started on vapes. They will screw your brain. They will affect your fertility. And I'm sorry, is there any kids in the room that we, yeah, but if you're a male, it's going to make these things shrink to like dried olives. They will affect your fertility and your brain. Get off that stuff, it's dangerous. Anyway, this couple were there, they were lining up for some ciggies, and I just happened to look in their trolley, and they had 10 2-litre bottles of Coca-Cola. Now, in a 2-litre bottle of Coca-Cola, there's between 70 and 80 heaped teaspoons of sugar. All right? Plus all the bits and chemicals and bits and pieces. They then bought a carton of cigarettes each. And then they proceeded to tell the lady behind the counter, because people like to tell their story, really. They love to tell their story. And they go, oh, my diabetes is real bad and my emphysema is getting worse. I'm sitting there waiting behind them, and I'm going, what the? You know what? Not my role to say anything. That's their journey. If people want to change their life by knowing and learning and being curious, guess what happens? They ask better questions. Do you think these 10 bottles of 2 litres of Coke are going to have an impact on my pancreas and my blood sugar and my digestive system? And do you think sucking, a pack of durries, maybe 2 packs a day, is going to affect my breathing? Well, of course it is, but if you don't know, you don't know. So be curious, right? Be curious. And whatever you do, don't neglect yourself. Don't neglect your little person in you. I neglected little Philip for a long while. I had a little bit of a health scare recently. And you know what? I missed little Philip screaming at me, because I found I was doing some emotional eating and a few different things that impacted a couple of bits of my health. But you know what? I woke up, I got a big kick in the rear end, And you know, I did something about it. And we're on the way to rebalancing the well-being. Because I've got a heap of energy. I've got a heap of love in my heart, a heap of hugs. Anyone who's ever had one of my hugs? Yeah, a few of them? Oh, look at that. Okay, they tell me it's a superpower, but anyway, they are consensual, by the way. All right. I'm just going to put some of these new buzzwords in. All right. So, where does it all begin? All right, where does it all begin? Well, first of all, most people start to do something about their health when they've got one of these things. They've got a symptom. Okay, that's like sitting in your house and it's raining, knowing there's a hole in the roof, and getting a bucket and putting under the drops. And when it stops raining, you take the bucket away. It's not a problem. But the problem's still there until there's next time a crisis, correct? Okay. My job is to get on the roof and find that bloody hole. Whatever that hole is, whether it be emotional, energetic, structural, physical, vibrational, anything there that's taking a hold of your body or in your essence or who you are that's going to impact and create symptomatology in your body. So we want to get to the root causes. There's lots of things. Inflammation generally occurs because we're not putting the right things in our body. We're in a constant state of stress. Our cortisol levels are super high. All right? And we can have the greatest smile on our face. I had chronic stress on the inside because I made a promise to my mother when my father was killed that I'd look after her till she took her last breath. I'd look after her as well as Dad did, and I'm going to try and do my best. That was 38 years of responsibility, which I took very, very seriously. And when my mum finally passed away at 93, yes, I was sad. Yes, I missed my mum's hugs. Yes, I missed holding her hand. But I didn't miss the stress of responsibility. And it was chronic within my system. And that's what created a little bit of a health issue with me. And I did this. I breathed for the first time in 38 years, fully and deeply. I didn't have to worry about whether mum was going to fall over, what was going to happen to her, were they looking after her while in the nursing home? Oh my God, I was her carer. Why couldn't I have kept her at home for longer? I don't know if anyone's going through that with an elderly parent, but there's a lot of stuff goes on with it. A lot of stuff in our heart and a lot of stuff in our shoulders. So we're going to look at the underlying things. Hormonal patterns. Now, as I said, Charmaine's fabulous. Get out there, make sure that you work with her. She will help with the balance of the biochemistry. That's someone else's thing. That's why I recommend people with Charmaine or Sharon Osborne, our naturopath, that will help people with that, to help support them. But it starts in utero. People would go, why in the hell are you touching a one-day-old baby? 1 day old! Well, I've touched. See the guy here with curly hair in the camera? Down the front here? Put your hand up. It's my oldest son. Oscar got his first adjustment when he was 3 minutes of age. 3 minutes. We almost lost Oscar and his mother in the birthing process. He's a big guy, like me. His mum is a smaller lady. I grew up on a farm, and we didn't put our big bull over the smaller heifers. Why? Because we'd have to get the calf puller out and pull that calf out because it wasn't coming out on their own. And in that case, Oscar was born, he was black. And I thought, where's Maria then? No, he was more black and blue from bruising, but see my bad jokes. But he came out and he went straight into the humidity crib. And I was adjusting him in the humidity crib. He didn't have the use of his arm. We could stick needles into it and it would bleed. No response. The doctor said, well, Philip, all the time, and I've been working with some of these doctors saying, Philip, we're just going to let you know this is a permanent injury. And I went, not on my watch. So I was adjusting Oscar every 15 minutes for almost 4 days. Checking, adjust, checking, adjust, checking, adjust. Oscar, lift up your right hand. You can see he's now got full movement of his right arm when they said it was permanent. More importantly, Why don't you just start adjusting babies when they're in utero? And there's a number of people who I've looked after them where I'm actually now looking after their children, but when I started looking after them, they were in utero. What happens? Anyone here been pregnant? Okay, you do realise whatever's going through you impacts that baby, correct? It doesn't have to mean that, oh, the baby didn't like that. Shouldn't have going. Oh. You know, breastfeeding and finding the baby's got colic. Oh, shouldn't have eaten that. A lot of shouldn't haves, right? So what we're doing is we're helping mum not do uploading in utero, uploading from our DNA patterns that come from dad and mum and grandparents and great-grandparents and great-grandparents. What we're doing is we're shifting that energetically. It's like getting your phone and changing your settings. It's no different. Okay, turn off the notifications. Turn off the pop-ups. Because we don't want things popping up like Facebook memories 20 years later going, ooh, did I really take that photo? Ooh. There's a lot of things. So we always start, and occasionally, even the toys have problems. Even the toys have problems. You know what? Sometimes they need a little TLC too, because they get knocked around. And the little kids go, Dr. Phil, can you tune up my teddy? Could you tune up my whale? Can you tune up my things? Okay? So we know that symptoms are because there's uploaded DNA patterns and a dysregulated nervous system, emotionally, physically, energetically, biochemically. The nervous system, our brain and body is like our hardwiring system. It goes to everything. It goes to all our organ systems. Like I was saying earlier when I was talking about me when I was a little frustrated, our liver causes us to have anger, resentment, frustration, all of those things. And if we have it in a chronic level, it impacts back into our nervous system and back into our brain. And then our brain goes, oh, better put some more of that in, put this, put that, change the recipe. And therefore we go into what we call a chronic stress cycle. So part of the thing is clearing the emotional patterns. And more importantly, I'm going to use another buzzword, the triggers. People get triggered these days, right? Okay. That word is misused. It is an elicited response. Elicited response, okay? How do you feel when your partner gives you a hug and whispers in your ear, I love you. You're the most beautiful woman in the world. How do you feel? Happy. Remember the first one? Happy, healthy, have a great life? Happy. That is a positive trigger. Negative triggers are things like, oh, I don't want to go there again. Oh, you know, not so good stuff. But remember, elicited responses are either positive or negative. Okay? There are positive triggers. Who's had one of my hugs again? All right. What, consensual, of course. What sort of response, trigger do you get from that? Happy. Kath? Safe and important. They're triggers, but positive triggers. Now, if it was a non-consensual hug, Kath, you would get terror. Okay? Some people will do that. So remember, there's key things here, making sure that we have consensual response between people. Okay? Especially when we're working intimately with them, and by that I mean in their emotions, their energetic fields. Right? So all of those things happen. Now, I'm going to call it the safety pin cycle. If the brain and body are communicating well, your body generally is working well. If there is a disconnection, a dysregulation, a dropout, well then the communication will be less than optimal. When the body is communicating in a less than optimal way, what do we have? Our bodies don't function well. Our organs don't function well. Our blood tests will change. Right? If the message is going to the liver, aren't being received and going back and forth properly, was there likely to be a problem with our blood results in our liver? Absolutely. There's a chance we may end up with a fatty liver. Why else? Because of neglect. If we're putting all the wrong stuff down here, well, I'm telling you, it's not going to end well. If you're emotionally eating and not mindful about what you're thinking and feeling before you eat, it's not going to end well. So we want to get that creation of information flowing well, whether it be structural nerves, the meridian system in the body, which is an energy system in the body, or I call the energetic body, which is a bit like our Wi-Fi field, or our cloud storage. Has anyone ever done this? Can't deal with this stuff anymore. Can't deal with this stuff. No, not today. We push it away. We push it into our cloud. It sits there. It's like cloud information. So it ends up being a Facebook pop-up. It'll come back at some stage, straight into your face. Why? Because your body wants to get rid of it. It wants to change things. It wants to give you the best opportunity to be well, to be happy, and healthy, and have a great life. But who puts the change on us because we don't understand ourselves enough? Learn about yourself and be careful, please. Some friends of mine are GPs and Quarry Street specialists. They go, oh my God, people, please stay away from Dr. Google. We know that symptoms for the common cold can be anything from a common cold to the worst cancer in the world. Please seek professional help from your GP, your specialist, your naturopath, your wellness chiropractor, someone who's going to have at least a good depth of knowledge to be able to explain to you what may be happening with you. It's critically important. And an integrative health model is critical in this world. We need, because people want not necessarily to take pharmaceuticals if they can. Sometimes it's necessary. I haven't had any for 45 years. Because I use Chinese medicine, homeopathics, naturopathics. I get regularly tuned up and adjusted. But if I need them, I'm going to take them. So far I haven't needed them. Okay? But sometimes, and the other thing is, if you're not willing to take charge and take responsibility for your own thoughts, feelings, actions and health, well then maybe that's the best path. But what I'm suggesting is don't be ignorant, don't be lazy. Start to know, start to be curious about things. Okay, we're going to wind up a little bit now. I'm going to go over this more in my workshop on generational things. But things, first of all, I want you to recognise your patterns. Recognise, if you always end up with a bad boy, you need to recognise that and do something about it, correct? If you're always, when you're angry, going and getting a battered salve or half a dozen scalds, potato scalds, and having a couple of cans of Coke, you want to understand that and believe that. You need to work that pattern out, because it's going to kill you ultimately. You need to acknowledge how we feel. It's okay to feel. I feel angry, I feel sad, I feel helpless, I feel vulnerable. But what do? Suppress it down, and that Coke bottle fist starts to happen again. We need to release. Sometimes to release it, we need to sit in that stuff for a little while. It's uncomfortable. If you keep avoiding stuff, it's going to get worse. It's going to become chronic. Whether it be relationships, whether it be self-worth, whether it be your health, whether it be organ health, it's going to get worse. Whether it's the way you spend money. Well, I'm going to spend more shoes, I'm going to buy more shoes, I'm going to buy my handbags, I'm going to buy more Harley Davidsons, whatever it is, it will come back and bite you somewhere, because it's not filling the void. Because I guarantee one thing, you never felt great for a longer period. You look at all those shoes and you go, I've only worn 3 pairs. Okay, so we need to be mindful. And that once we start to release and detach from our own story. Right? If you own something, it's going to own you. Oh, I've got friends, I've got a lot of friends. I've recently lost one of my best friends to breast cancer. And she goes, you know what, at the end of the day, Philip, I've got breast cancer, but it's not going to own me. And yes, I'm going to pass. And she passed. I held her hand as she passed. But there are people then who own it, who get through it and become very well, and they beat that. But the key is, yes, it's okay to remember. I call it getting happily angry, and I went, breast cancer, I won. But to become just a survivor means you're just in front of it. And at the back of your head, you're wondering, when's it going to come back? When's it going to come back? When's it going to come back? So we need to make sure that we don't own stuff. Okay? I'm not saying being negligent. I'm not saying being irresponsible. But have a positive mindset and take action, positively action steps. And finally, we claim our sense of calm and peace and harmony and love. The best way to do that is to connect to love. Love from little Philip to big Philip, little you to big you, little you to big you. That's the best relationship you can ever have. But sadly, in this country, when I was growing up, I think when you were growing up, if you loved yourself, you're a tosser, you're a this, you're that, you're a wanker. I'm telling you, self-love is the best relationship you'll ever have. Self-love is critically important to our well-being, our mental well-being, our mental health, our energetic health, our spiritual health, and our physical health, and our relationship health. Because if you have a level of love, you're going to put up with crap in your relationship. No way, honey. As I've taught my daughters, you know what? Red flags, call it there and then. Don't even go into it. Don't try and fix it because their problem's not you to fix. Just saying, okay? The healing path, everyone wants. I don't care whether someone's a GP or a specialist, someone comes to them and they go, I'll give you a prescription. It's going to get better, right? It's the magic bullet. The healing path isn't linear. It is all over the place. It's up and down and up and down. Because you're going to get little lessons, you're going to get more lessons, but those things will come less and less and less. As you learn more, you understand yourself more, you take more positive actions, you be more mindful, and you put more love in your heart. And when you do that, your life changes forever. Is it an easy path? No way in hell. Will it challenge you on all levels? Absolutely. Is it for the faint of heart? But if you have the courage, the commitment and the consistency to stay on that healing path and becoming mindful, to fill your heart, to make good choices, your life will change forever and you will be able to live a happy, healthy, and have a great life. Thank you for listening. One of my assistants at the door, Belinda, if you can grab a little booklet I've done up for today. You can grab one of those booklets on the way out. That'll help you understand more